Thank you so much for taking some time for me today. I
Of
really
course.
appreciate this opportunity to get to visit with you. I finished watching the movie last night, and I got to tell you that it was just absolutely fantastic. Like, you've
Thank you.
got this amazing storyline, this fantastic cast, and just the direction of the film and as a whole. It really makes you think, and there's so many different elements that you've put into this film that kind of causes, I want to say, a ripple effect almost of you know what people question about themselves, what people question about reality.
Sure.
Um, just to start off, would you care just to maybe break down the inspiration for wanting to bring this story to life? Because
Yeah.
many people probably don't know, this is kind of based on true events,
Yeah.
sort of, and
Absolutely.
so what led you down this path?
Yeah, I mean, it's based on true incidents. I heard about this story about 10 years ago, just very randomly, about Nandor Fodor and the Irving family and this mongoose Jeff. And I remember thinking at the time, like, that's a crazy story. I got to write a script about it. But it wasn't until a little later when I had this kind of weird, like, life experience, sort of a peripheral kind of life experience with a very religious friend, that I kind of married it all together. Like, it hit me. I was like, oh, Jeff is God. Okay, here we go. And that's the end. And then it was like, okay, cool. And then I created this sort of narrative about cynicism and faith and happiness and all that type of thing. So
Wow. Wow. Okay. So can you kind of take me down a timeline as far as the process and how long you've been working
yeah.
on this then?
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned this on another interview, and it's really funny. My process with writing a script is unique because it only takes me 2 to 3 weeks to actually write a script. But I think about it for 5 to 10 years, and I put notes down, I'll know a subject, or I know the very broad stroke. Okay, I know I'm going to write this, and I'll create the script, the document, and then I'll start just making these kind of chunks of notes, right? And it'll go on and on and on for years, like I said, until finally I get to a point where I've got it all, and I've got point A to point Z, and I'm like, okay, this is where I know it's going to go. And then it's pretty simple connecting the dots. Like, the actual writing of it is not too difficult. It's kind of like the hard work is thinking about it and thinking about the themes and thinking about the subtext and thinking about the characters and all that stuff, and thinking about it so much that it finally all makes sense. So then, from there, then it's like, okay, I have a script and I'm happy with it. And then we start sending it out and trying to get, the right talent attached, and we go from there. And that was kind of the process with this one.
Now, with you being both a writer and a director on this project and others, when you're writing a script, are you ever thinking of a particular actor or anybody in mind? Like, was Simon Pegg on your list as somebody you wanted to have for this?
Well, so that's a two-part question. So
Yeah.
I don't usually write with a specific actor in mind, honestly. And it always makes it awkward because I finish the script and I send it to my producers or my casting director, and the first question, like, okay, who do you see for this and this? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I just wrote these characters. But so with Nandor, I wrote the script, and then, my casting director essentially sent me about 5 names, right? And Simon was the one. He jumped out at me because all that I knew I wanted for this character was somebody who could do comedy and drama really well. They needed to be an actor who could do comedy, and especially who could do dry comedy, So I didn't want like a very serious actor for this. And so I was like, oh my God, yeah, Simon, like, that's it. Like, he's got it. He's got everything. And then, when he loved the script. And so when he and I spoke for the first time, it was beautiful because he also really identified with the character and loved the humor and stuff. So it was a very quick process with him.
And just to follow up on Simon's development of this character, I got to ask you about the accent, the voice that he decided
Yeah.
to go with this character.
I know. I was
Uh,
terrified initially because, he was like, he's this very prominent British actor who's known as a British actor. And he was proposing that we basically put this very prominent British actor in a very British movie surrounded by British actors who would be playing British and have him not. And I was like, oh man. And then I was like, actually, I kind of love this. And so, you know, I trust Simon implicitly. He's so good. And he kind of debuted the accent for me. And I was just like, oh my God, it's perfect. He sounded like Christoph Waltz and he was just amazing. I mean, the accent was flawless.
Yes, Christoph Waltz. That like, I don't know if you're familiar with the comedian Yakov Smirnoff or not,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
Russian
Yeah.
comedian. You know, being here in Branson, this is where he's headquartered. So I've had many interviews with him.
Oh,
So I
wow.
kept getting hints of like, man, why does that sound so
Oh, that's
familiar? I was just like,
amazing.
this is like Yakov's doctor voice. Like whenever he's talking about a very serious subject,
Ah.
that's what he sounds like. So
Hey, he could have drawn inspiration from that. I don't remember if we talked about that in particular, but it's very possible.
no, I love the voice. I
Yeah,
love
it's
Simon in
beautiful.
this film.
Yeah.
Minnie Driver and Christopher Lloyd as well.
Yeah.
I mean, just the combo of the three of them in this film.
Yeah.
And while there's just so many fantastic actors in this film that I've being introduced to for the very first time.
Yeah.
So can you just maybe talk to me about filling out the rest of the cast and what
Yeah.
that process was like?
Yeah. I really wanted great British character actors, like just lovely, like kind of like the British actors where you see them and go, oh my God, that guy, I see him in everything. So Tim Downey was recommended to me because the first movie I ever made was with a guy named Sam Hewen, who's on the show Outlander, and Tim was on the show Outlander. And Sam recommended Tim, and he's like, Tim's amazing. And oh my God, he's so funny. He's my, like, he cracks me up harder than anyone in this movie. Like, he's so great. And then Paul Kaye was really unique because so when Paul showed up on set, I had no idea who this guy was. He was lovely and just a very sweet, kind energy. And all the Brits on set were like, oh my God, it's Paul. And so Paul apparently had a character, I must have been 15, 20 years ago in England, called Dennis Pennis. And this was like an Ollie G type character who would go and troll celebrities. And there was like a very famous Dennis Pennis interview of Paul Kaye like trolling Tom Cruise on a red carpet somewhere. And I had no idea about any of this. And all the Brits on the crew were like, Dennis Pennis, mate. I was like, who the hell is that? But it was amazing. Like he was, you know, his performance is great. And then Ruthie Connell, who's well known from Supernatural, she was just so absolutely lovely and is one of my favorite people. We've become really good friends. Her performance is amazing. Yeah, I mean, we got, and Gary Beadle, like, you know, he's fantastic. All these guys were just really great, like beautiful British character actors.
Yeah, and obviously I've got to address the voice of Jeff.
Yeah, Neil.
Like I was just like I saw his name pop up on the screen. I was like, "Are you
Yeah,
kidding me?" Like,
I know.
so how did that happen?
You know, we had
Awesome.
it came about through a very sort of convoluted way. We actually had a relative of Neil who was in the movie, and when we were trying to find a voice for the mongoose, he just said, dude, you know, what about Neil, man? Neil does a lot of voice work. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, Neil Gaiman's like one of my idols. I mean, legitimately one of my childhood idols. And I said, sure. And so he said, I'll ask Neil. And Neil said, yeah, he loved the script and he's down. And he knew about Jeff and about all the lore and everything. And I was like, oh my God. And so Neil's assistant was like, okay, like, you know, come out to upstate New York and in like 3 days. And I was like, okay. And I flew out there into this tiny recording studio in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York. It was like a converted church. And Neil just rolls up, you know, he's super nice, like very like chill guy. We chatted a bunch about just like, you know, nerdy stuff. And we chatted about, you know, Princess Mononoke and the fact that he wrote the American script for that movie, which I didn't even know. And Harvey Weinstein like took his name off the movie. And Minnie was one of the voices in the amazing American dub. And I'd forgotten. And so it was like, you know, it was beautiful. It was legitimately a dream come true to work with Neil.
I mean, I think a lot of, you know, American fans, American audiences are going to see Simon Pegg and immediately go, okay, well, where's Nick Frost in this movie?
Yeah.
And in my head, I was just like, okay, Nick Frost is going to show up and he's going to be the voice of Jeff. Like that was my initial thing. I was just like, okay, Nick Frost is going to be there and that's who's going to come like from the hole in the wall or whatever. But then it's Neil Gaiman. And I was just like,
oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Nick Frost is not in this movie, nor is his voice, but you know, but we got Neil. So
No, it was outstanding, man. I truly love this film. And
thank you.
one of the main things I did want to ask you about before I have to let you go is just, the message you want audiences to take away. Because I imagine everybody's going to grasp at something different from this film. But you as the director and you as the writer, was there anything that you just really want your audience to take away thinking about after the credits roll in this film?
I would never tell my audience what to think about my movie, but I would say, like, just think. That's it. Like, if you like, there are a lot of messages in this film, and if you are an extremely religious, faith-driven person, just think about what else might be out there. If you're a very cynical, materialistic, impossible to buy into any religion kind of person like me, just think about whether that's making you happy. There's a lot of different sort of themes in this film that I just want people, I never want to tell people, or hit them over the head with a message. Just kind of open their eyes and just see if there's something else out there that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a wonderful answer because, like I said, it just, so many elements from the start to the finish makes you go, oh, okay, let me take a moment on that one. And then you present this, and I'm just like, oh, wow. So I need to, wow. So I love
Well,
movies that do make me think. And so that's the perfect,
Me
why I
too.
say it's the perfect answer, because I want to take a moment after the credits roll and just be like, wow,
Yeah.
okay.
That's all I
This
care
is,
about
this is
as an
what's going
artist.
on.
It's all I care about as an artist, is just trying to make the audience think something, feel something, think something.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is there any other projects you got coming up down the line? I definitely want to give
Yeah,
you a chance to
I
just
just
give those
shot,
a
I
shout
actually
out.
just shot a movie about a month ago with Bella Thorne and Jack Kilmer. It's like a kind of a dark drama that takes place in a small southern town about a mermaid who lives in a water tower. It's a very dark, sort of like Edward Scissorhandsy type thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm just starting post on that. Like, literally, I'm going back to LA in about a week and a half, and then I jump right into post on that.
Wow, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm assuming, without, I don't know what you can share about it, but I mean, Bella is playing mermaid in
Oh
the
yeah, she's the
or
mermaid.
okay.
Yeah. And if you follow me on social media, I post stuff about it, and I've posted pictures and stills and stuff. And I mean, yeah, she's incredible as the mermaid.
Awesome. And that was my next question. If people want to keep up
Yeah.
with you, watch
Mostly
what you're up
Instagram.
to.
Instagram. I don't really do much else. I'm kind of an old man. I don't do the TikToks or any of that fun stuff. But yeah, just follow me on Instagram, Soaring Seagull, and I post a lot about my films.
All right. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
man, thank you so much. This has been just an absolute pleasure to get to talk to you and
Thank
pick your
you.
brain about the movie. I absolutely love it. I can't wait for audiences to get to see this and
Same.
think a little bit. So
Exactly. Thank you. Cool.
awesome. Thank you so
Okay.
much for
Thanks,
your time.
Timothy. All right.
Take care.
See ya.